How do we start this thing off?
Just read.
You want me to just read?
Yeah.
What if we did a freestyle rap about the choir guys, and that's how we started?
We could. The choir guys. Look at the thighs. The choir guys. Feeling really high. The choir guys. Sorry.
No, we can't start that way.
I realize that sounds like a drug reference. It's really not. I'm just trying to think of what rhymes with thighs.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Choir Guys podcast, brought to you by Endeavor Music Publishing. My name is Blake Richter.
And I'm Danny Gutierrez. Should I look this way or?
You can every once in a while if you want to. You don't have to.
I probably should not have said it there in that moment because I think you gotta have
That's
to
okay.
edit this
That's
again.
okay.
So it just feels very intimate that we're so close to each other and have these like literally talking in my ear right now.
Hey.
Oh yeah.
Hey buddy.
Okay.
How are you?
Good. See, that's what I'm saying. It's intimate.
How's your day today?
It's good, but this is very intimate. I'm just saying.
So, why are we doing this podcast, Danny?
That's a good question. Well, I guess we came up with it like a couple of weeks ago, and we decided that number one, it would be cool to just talk and be with each other talking. It sounds like we're on our way to a very strong relationship. So I'm very fortunate. I have the honor of working with Blake Richter in choirs. He heads up the junior high choirs, and I am fortunate to work with him first hour in the morning when we have this amazing co-taught tenor bass choir, and then I'm also predominantly conducting the high school choirs. And we get along with each other really well. We have a lot of fun together. We do weird things, and we thought it'd be cool to have a podcast because I think we do a lot of good things. Don't you think we do some good stuff?
I mean, some of our students might beg to differ, and their parents, but it's fine.
That's true.
By the way, when we mention the school that we teach at, we might bleep it out just so that way we can separate our work life and the podcast.
We think that we have a lot to offer. We come up with creative stuff all the time, and we just wanted an outlet to help out teachers that are either looking for ways to invigorate their teaching or to just have fun or anything like that. A very practical, user-friendly thing that we can talk about, and hopefully teachers will be able to take this and use some things in their classroom.
For sure. Yeah, so Danny came to me at our state conference. We were at breakfast. He's like, what if we started a podcast? And what he didn't know was that I've been wanting to start a podcast for a long time. Not necessarily be in one, but just like produce one and do the behind the scenes of a podcast. And so whenever he came up to me with this, I was like, absolutely.
He's been watching the Kelsey brothers, who are our main competition, but whatever.
Heights.
Yeah,
they're our main competition.
They're pretty good.
The number one podcast.
Yeah, they're our main competition.
Why? I don't think we need to aim for the number
No,
one
I mean,
podcast.
Travis Kelsey, if you listen to this, I mean, this is obviously not competition, but...
If you listen to this, please tell Taylor I said hi. So let's get to know us. Danny, let's start with you. Why did you become a choir director? Take us back to the 80s when you were born. I don't know if you want to go back.
No, that's fine. Thanks for aging me, though. That's cool.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. So I think I loved music, and but I didn't really know much music. I just knew what was available. So in the 90s, which was when I was like a kid, there was New Kids on the Block. There was MC Hammer and Company. The music I really liked, and I didn't really know much else. So when I was in orchestra, they got me to play the viola in third grade, and I kind of fell in love with classical music at that point. I started listening to it, got hooked on Beethoven, Bach, all the guys, and I knew that this was something I loved. I did choir, and I started choir, I guess, formally. I guess I was part of a third grade choir, which was pretty awesome. I remember we were doing Lion King songs at the time because that was popular, because I guess it just came out, actually. And then I did, I guess, formal choir in 7th grade, and I loved it, and I got hooked, and I stuck with it. And then I went to college, and I thought initially that I wanted to go down a different career path, and then I decided that choir was that I wanted to be involved in choral music. So, and that's how I got started. Kind of a weird situation. Like I didn't really have any training at that point. I didn't play piano. Never took applied lessons or anything like that for my voice. It just worked out that I had some people that were great mentors and helped me out. So, and then one day someone came to me about a scholarship. They called it, I guess, a minority scholarship because I am Colombian. And
What?
I'm
You're from Columbia, Missouri.
well, no. My father's from Colombia, not to be confused with the other one. More like Colombia, that one,
yeah.
Colombia. And so they gave me a contract for 3 years. I would have to teach in the area, and in turn, they would pay for my college. So it seemed like a pretty good deal, and I did it. Then I got hooked, and I loved it. And I started elementary, went to middle level education, and now I do both middle level and high school education.
Love it.
How about you?
Well, first of all, what was the other career path?
I initially wanted to be a pastor. That was my initial intention in college. Yeah.
Mr. G, pastor in his flock.
I was thinking about it, but then a series of events made me think no. So, and here I am. Here we are.
I won't ask you about the series of
Yeah,
events.
let's not get into that publicly.
Yeah, so I've always loved music, and I think about like fourth grade or so, I finally joined choir in Clarksville, Tennessee, before I moved to...
I keep forgetting you're from Tennessee.
Yeah, before I moved to where I am now. I'm not going to say where because we'll have to bleep it out again. But I did choir there. I loved it. Then I moved to where I currently live and currently teach. And I didn't do choir at first, but I was obsessed with contemporary Christian music. And so I wanted to play the guitar. So I learned how to play the guitar, and then I joined band and learned how to play the saxophone. That same year in sixth grade, I joined choir at a school in our local district. And I fell in love with it there, and I kept doing choir all throughout middle school and high school. My high school choir director, shout out to Jason Honeycutt, he really believed in me. In my junior year, I think he said, "You're going to be a choir director someday." I just laughed in his face because I was like, "No, I'm not." He doesn't know what I actually want to do. And he said, whenever he leaves, he would love me to take his job. And I was like, that's trusting me with too much. Like, why are you trusting me like that? And then I decided to go into music ed kind of as a backup plan because, drum roll please, I wanted to be a minister as well.
Oh,
but
really?
A music minister.
We could have been at the same church.
I feel like if we both were at a church, people would classify it as a cult, in a very weird way.
Yeah. We'd have a bunch of teenagers in our church, for better or for worse.
That sounds weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went into music ed as a backup plan because my brother did that too. And my brother is currently a minister. And so I just basically did whatever my brother did. Shout out to Tyler Richter. And he decided to go that route. And then I was even applying my senior year of college for worship ministry positions in like South Carolina. Maybe it was North Carolina, one of the two. And then my senior year, the unfathomable happened. My freshman year of college, my roommates Taylor Schaefer and my brother Tyler Richter had a practicum placement with this guy named Daniel Gutierrez. And there is this day where I walked into the room and they were both wearing tights. And I was like, what is happening? Why is this happening? And they said, we're about to go to our practicum observation. And I was like, where? They're like, well, it's with Danny Gutierrez. I was like, I pray I never get this guy because I don't want to have to wear tights. Well, I got that guy, and he was at middle school.
There were no tights.
There were no tights, so that was good. But I was very hesitant going in, and he, first day, he was like, hey, let's have a rap battle. And we had a rap battle, and I was just having a blast. And this guy, Danny, was like going to town and just having a blast with all these kids. And I thought, I can go and be a goofball every day and get paid. That's not all we do, but we're a goofball most of the time. So that was kind of what changed my mind. I started applying for music jobs after that. And I always said if I got to teach in my hometown, that would be the selling point for me. And there were 2 jobs open right when I graduated in my hometown, and I got one of them. And we're still not at the same building, but we're still in that area. And now I teach junior high, and you teach high school in the same district, and we teach together in the mornings, and then I feed you children. That sounds weird as well. Well, welcome to our first segment. One of our segments, we're going to test out some different segments with our podcast, but this first one is just called Choir News, which I know sounds very boring.
I couldn't think choir news sounds awesome. Like if I heard something on the street saying choir news, I'd be like, ooh, what's this about? But does that mean I'm boring?
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Choral Singing in America documentary. So many of us have heard about the Choral Singing in America documentary over the last few years. It's a visual representation of the breadth and depth of choral singing today. The film beautifully tells the myriad of stories and sounds of American choral singers and leaders, stories that inspire, build community, foster hope, and showcase the tremendous social capital and community building of singing together. America sings in schools, in communities, in concert halls, on the streets, in churches and synagogues, prisons, in hospice centers, and wherever hearts are moved to join in song. And I actually had the incredible opportunity to work with the filmmaker Brian Gaukel back in May of 2021. We were filming a portion of the documentary in Nebraska with the Missouri State Chorale and various choir directors in the state of Nebraska. The documentary is officially done, and it's officially finished. There have already been a few showings of the documentary, but there are more to come. So make sure to check out their website, choralsinging.org, to see when you can view the documentary. It may even be coming to a regional ACDA conference near you. So Brian has given us permission to play the first part of the documentary on our podcast right now. So let's take a look.
Choral Singing in America, Nurturing the Country's Soul, was conceived as a project in March of 2020 at the beginning of a global pandemic. As choruses hungered to sing in close quarters once again, the film began to record personal stories from singers and conductors, capturing the why of choral singing and its impact on individuals and communities. As the world emerged from the shutdown, the power of these stories became the central focus for showcasing the remarkable breadth, resilience, and emotional power of America's choral landscape. Roughly 54 million people, or 1 in 6 Americans, sing in an organized choral ensemble. Most are amateurs, singing for the sheer joy of joining with others in song. How and why people sing varies greatly. They sing for a sense of community, to give comfort to others, to heal from emotional wounds, to celebrate, to protest, and to experience great beauty and inspiration. Some sing in settings of worship, in school, for competition, and for livelihood. Some sing to bring peace at the end of life, and some sing to create opportunity for all. The one common thread is that singing together is nurturing the country's soul.
Blake, I don't know if you saw this yet, but Disney Plus has a new show. Did you see this yet or no?
I've heard about it, but I have not seen it.
So it's called Choir, is the name. Go
creative.
figure. Yeah. It's about the Detroit Youth Chorus and their journey into performing at Carnegie Hall, basically. So I guess they were on America's Got Talent. When I saw that there was a documentary called Choir on Disney Plus, I was like, well, I love Disney Plus, and now they have a documentary called Choir. So
You
I'll
like
check it out.
choir, so.
Yes, I do. So it was fascinating. A lot of the things we can kind of relate to, like a lot of the drama that happens, and it's all kind of a big kind of motivating part for the students is all about what kind of choir can you get into, and they all want to get into this prime time choir, which is, I guess, their flagship ensemble. And they made it so that the plot was people are trying to get into the primetime ensemble so they can perform at Carnegie Hall. And I thought it was interesting. It's funny, as a choir director, it becomes hard at times to watch some of this stuff, because like for instance, there was a student that wasn't in the premier ensemble, and it was driving me insane. I was like, oh my gosh, how is a student not in the top ensemble? She's so good. How is this not? And then the audition process happened, and they were like, well, you just got to sing louder. You got to sing louder. I'm like, no, you don't got to sing louder. You have to sing more resonantly. Don't sing louder. Don't mess up what you have going on there. Just sing beautifully like you're doing. Just maybe change the placement a bit if you want a more resonant, mature sound. It's not about volume. So anyway, it's as a choir director, it was hard to like listen to it, but I understand too. People run their choirs differently. People look for different things, and I respect it. And I think the Detroit Youth Chorus is amazing. But it was interesting being just emotionally enveloped in this whole thing. And then I was talking to my son Zane, and I was like, all right, if she doesn't make that top choir, like I'm gonna put something on social media about this, because this isn't right. But then I was like, no, that's a really bad. I was thinking about it, but I was like, this is a bad idea. But anyway, I was really into it in that regard. But it was cool. You should definitely check it out. I think it's cool that choir can be part of mainstream anything at this point. It's kind of like, when Glee was popular. It was like, they're one of us. Those Glee people, they're one of us, even though they're not. Lord knows we don't have a budget. Like, imagine having a budget like that, though. Like the budget they had did you watch Glee or no?
I wasn't as into it as some people, but I watched maybe 4 seasons. I've not finished.
They kept complaining about not having any budget for anything, but they're putting on these like $100,000 spectacular stuff. I'm like, come on, I don't know about that. But anyway, it's neat. It's neat to see choir in mainstream media and in any capacity, and it's a great talking point for students and getting them fired up about choir is kind of a cool thing, and a lot of people are doing it. So I'm happy that it's out there. I think it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now it's time to shout out our first sponsor, Endeavor Music Publishing. Endeavor is dedicated to publishing the best in new and innovative choral music, and to the idea that composers should earn the majority of the sale of their music.
That's the great thing about this company. Royalties for Endeavor composers are over 5 times the industry standard, so that's cool. So you can trust that your purchase supports the artist who created it.
Endeavor is currently seeking out emerging talent and established composers, so if you are interested in getting one of your pieces published, make sure to visit their submissions page on their website.
Before finalizing the rep for your next concert, make sure to go to their website and peruse their new titles.
Yeah, and Danny and I heard a few of their new titles at our state music conference just a couple weeks ago. Specifically, I'd like to shout out Il Lampo by Ryan Main and Becoming You by Bethany Main. We love the Mains. Mm-hmm. If you have ever performed Ryan Main's Dies Irae, Il Lampo gives off a similar vibe. There are few contemporary choral pieces with an Italian text, so this is a perfect choice for your young singers. Becoming You is Bethany Main's first composition, but you wouldn't know it just by listening to it because it sounds great. With its strong message and pop-like melodies, it is perfect for young singers. All of Endeavor's pieces offer various voicings to meet the needs of all of your ensembles, and this is another reason why Danny and I love to choose to program Endeavor pieces regularly.
Additionally, I would like to give a shout out to the piece Be the Light by Franklin Willis. So this is a piece we're working on with our 7th and 8th grade boys in the morning, and they love it. It's upbeat, accessible, and highly repetitive, so your young singers can be successful. They can learn it quickly and can work on those music concepts that you need to work with them on. So make sure to check out these pieces when you get a chance. Specifically, shout out to GMEA, which I'm conducting their debut tenor bass middle level choir, and we will actually also be performing that piece there, which I'm really, really excited about. So thanks again to Endeavor Music Publishing for sponsoring today's episode.
So one of the things we want to do in our episodes is have like a main topic that we talk about. And so for this first episode, Danny had an idea of discussing concert programming. So do you want to take us into that?
Yeah, so I think think concert programming is a really awesome way to just make your own unique artistic impression on something. So I love programming. I love figuring out the jigsaw puzzle of what fits in where. And it's really important because I've realized even if, let's say, your students are not, maybe they're not super technically where you might want them to be, if the programming is right, they're going to sound like bosses, they're going to feel like bosses, and eventually it's going to lead to the growth that you want to see from them. So we're both working on different things. I know Blake just conducted Nebraska a couple of weeks
South
ago.
Dakota.
South Dakota. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I'm sorry. If you're
Nebraska
if you're from
was-
South Dakota, I'm sorry. Different state.
Nebraska was over the summer. So I did do that
yes.
too. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so they're like, it's different programming for an honor choir than it is for like your choirs, obviously, because we don't know the kids that we're going to be conducting at the honor choir, so you have to just really trust the people that are in charge and trust them that they know the level of kids or the performance level of the kids. And sometimes you can really trust them, and sometimes you find out,
and sometimes you regret very quickly what you programmed.
But like big shout out to South Dakota ACDA. It was the best honor choir I've ever done because the kids were super prepared. They were super hospitable. Kids were well behaved, and I just loved every moment of it. So I know I threw them your name for in the future,
Cool.
and I threw out some other names. But if you have the opportunity, directors, to go to South Dakota, they got some singers, and they are very hospitable.
I think student preparation is so key too. Like I once heard someone said, and it stuck with me. And they're like, no honor choir director has ever said, man, I wish I programmed some harder literature for that honor choir program. It's always the opposite. So under programming, I think, is key, and also just making sure you have a good sense of the preparation of the students, because everyone has a process, and the people with really good processes tend to produce really good honor choirs. So yeah, but it's a different type of programming from what we would do in the classroom. And so right now, what my students are working on, we're getting ready for Southwest ACDA, which is awesome. They were accepted to perform there, and we're working on this program that's very, very emotional, right? So last year, I had a group perform at the state conference, or the MMEA, the Missouri Music Educators Association Conference. And we did a program, and Blake's group as well did a program there too, their varsity treble choir, right? So with my group, it was a good performance. Like, it was very successful. They executed very, very challenging pieces that I wouldn't say I regret programming them, but I wish I would have programmed a little differently, a little less complicated notes, and a little more emotional stuff happening there. And I feel like that's key to good programming. I once heard someone say, under-program musically, but over-program emotionally. And I think I really took that to heart. It went great, and it was, like I said, it was successful, but it was just missing that component that makes you fall in love with music. I know for me, I think about those amazing conference experiences you don't forget, and normally those experiences center around some dynamic group that just lays it all out there, and you feel like they're talking to you personally. And I think so for the program last year for the state conference, I thought, okay, this is very, like, it's a cool program, like, for people like me, but it was lacking that emotional depth and height. So when I found out the group this year got accepted into Southwest ACDA, I thought, I'm going to hardcore go into the emotion of everything. And we'll keep it rigorous, we'll keep it very relevant, but we're going to get very emotional here. So the program centers around the dangers of emerging technology. So for instance, this past summer, so for those that know me, you know this about me. If you don't know me, you're going to find out. So I'm kind of really into just reading and learning about technology all the time. So anything having to do with AI, ChatGPT, I am on it, like, super hardcore.
Yeah, and I can vouch for the ChatGPT. Lots of emails, lots of communication, lots of interesting pictures get sent by Daniel Gutierrez through ChatGPT, and
Well, we need to clarify that because you can't just have that statement in and of itself. He went to a
Appropriate
He went to a
pictures.
Golden State Warriors game recently, so I had them come up with like Warriors themed pictures involving him and some other friends that were there. But so yeah, I use it for a lot. So if you're a parent listening to this and you get an email back from me that's like particularly grammatically solid and very, very nice. Like, to be honest, if you're a parent and you send me an email that was like, look at your life, look at your choices, what are you doing? You're messing up my child's life. And then I give you an email saying, oh, thank you. It's critical to communicate on matters like these because it's gonna blah, 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 blah. It's definitely ChatGPT. I'm being honest with you. So sometimes I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll just say, answer yes to this email, and then I'll send the original email, and it'll give this whole elaborate like, I appreciate you bringing this up, and yes, that would be fine. And it just makes you look. I'm outing myself right now, but it is what it is. But anyway, so it's about emerging technologies and about some concerns that I have about it. So we're starting off with, and we're doing it through kind of a cultural lens. So we're starting off with this piece called Senzenina, arranged by Michael Barrett, who just came down to my school recently, which was awesome. He's the man.
From like South Africa.
From South Africa, yeah. Yeah, well,
I mean, it came to his high school.
Yeah, he did. Anyway,
Isn't this the premiere of that piece in North America?
I'm not sure what the Tux Camarada did. I first heard the piece. They made a recording, put a video, and I think it happened during COVID time. So I'm not sure exactly where they performed it, but technically, I think it was performed at least for a video at some point. And it's Senzeni now, which means how did we get here, or how did this become, or something to that effect. And it's kind of taking a stand against racial injustice specifically. And it's a powerful piece, but I thought about it through the lens of technology, thinking about some of the injustices that can come out of access to technology, or technologies that are dominating and can take over industries or something along those lines, is asking the question, how did we get here? The second piece was commissioned Ryan to write a piece about, it's called Human Like.
Ryan Main,
Endeavor Music. Yep, it will be available very soon. Yes, exactly. So this past summer, there was a group of people that met and talked about some of the dangers of ChatGPT. And so this Future of Life Institute organization came out and with this crazy letter that says, we have a lot of concerns for AI systems that are more powerful than ChatGPT 4, and that there needs to be a pause on these things because this can lead to like losing control of our society, our economy, and some other issues. And when I read it, I was really taken back by it. I was like, wow, this is so crazy and so kind of dark and eerie. Who could write music that would fit this really well? And Ryan Main was that guy. And it is a crazy piece. I mean, we just tried to get the essence of what does AI sound like? What would a machine sound like? So the piece has a lot of those different elements, a lot of fifth tuning, parallel motion the entire time. It's a fascinating piece featuring the text of that letter. And then after that piece, we go into this piece called Ayúdame, written by the composer Carlos Cordero, who is from Venezuela. And it talks about a lot of the difficulties their society has had in terms of their economy or food, poverty, you name it. And the song is translated to "Help Me." So I thought, in light of just the feeling overwhelmed by something, and in the case of this piece, in the context, feeling overwhelmed by the circumstances that are around you and asking for help, asking for someone to be there for you. And I thought, in the bigger picture in the program, this emerging technology that can get out of control, and you come to a point where you're like, I need help here. And then from there, we're going to this piece, The Human Heart. So it's a Coldplay song, and it's but there's an arrangement of it. Oh, I forgot the arranger. But anyway, it's a really cool arrangement, and it's kind of a cleansing from the previous three pieces, which are super amped up, super emotional, super in your face. And then it's kind of more tonal. We've got some nice chords here. So it's a way to transition to Joshua Rist here, which is an amazing piece. Highly recommend checking it out. And then kind of going from there to thinking about ourselves in terms of human and connecting with each other. And then at the end, it's Getaway Jordan. So it's kind of we're getting past that point now. We're moving forward. We're getting past that threshold. So that's the piece. And I think thinking about programming in those terms mean a lot. It means a lot to the audience, means a lot to potentially teachers if they're in attendance, but just anyone that's there. We all want to be moved emotionally. It's not really, no one really cares if there is a lot of complicated harmonies and rhythms. I mean, I care about stuff like that. It's invigorating to me, and I love challenging myself and challenging students, but at the end of the day, we just want to be moved by music. And I know you've done a great job at that, programming really interesting music. Can you talk about the program you just did for your winter concert and the theme and the choices that you made from there?
Yeah, one thing that I was going to mention, which kind of goes into that, I think it's important to be relevant as well, like emotionally relevant. So like with the AI stuff, like you took that letter that was sent out, and essentially your entire program is revolved around that letter in a way. And so it's important to be relevant. So unfortunately, over this past summer, between June and August, I lost, 6 people in my life. And then by the end of 2023, it was 7 people. My grandma passed away, my great uncle, a colleague down the hall, a student, another aunt, and then a custodian at a building that was close with my wife, and then my biological grandfather also passed away. So just a lot of death, a lot of grieving, and I'm not someone who's had to deal with that a lot. And also, our students had to deal with it as well, with the student that passed away, and with our teacher that passed away as well. And so I thought, how can I, like, not necessarily take this terrible stuff that's been happening and make a concert program out of it, but how can I slightly involve that, and also like talk about these deep emotional things with our students and have these open conversations. And so we, along with my co-teacher, Lauren Bowman, shout out to Lauren, she'll be on this podcast at some point. But we decided to go with the program theme, beginnings and endings, because like for our 7th graders, they're beginning their secondary education. For our 8th graders, they're ending their time at the junior high. It's the beginning of, it's my first year with this co-teacher, Lauren Bowman, first year with a new accompanist as well. So there's some beginnings there. We started a new choir that we co-teach together, the varsity tenor bass choir. So there's a lot of like exciting beginnings. And then, those endings, we talked about loss, but we also talked about like the end of a day with a lullaby. And we talked about night and those kind of endings. So there were lots of things that went in there, but I'll be honest, the main thing that it kind of revolved around, at least for me, was that idea of loss. But not every piece was revolved around loss, because that would be very, very, very emotional. There's really only one piece for the 2 different concerts that we had that was revolved around that. But one thing that I also like to do is I love to collaborate with the art department at our high school, because those students are so talented, and it just adds an extra visual element to everything. So I've done that in the past for our state music conference, where like those students listened to every single piece and they created visual art for every single piece. For this, they just created like our program cover essentially, and our promotional materials, and they created this beautiful artwork that was like a sunrise, but also a sunset, and also like the moon was in there as well. So like beginnings and endings, and it had, it had the ocean with the sun and the moon and the horizon. So it was beautiful, and it just added an extra artistic element to that program. So that was kind of what we did with that program. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, speaking of our state conference MMEA. I said I was going to tell a funny story about my first MMEA. I had never been. I had been in all-state choir, and I had been in the all-state or all-collegiate choir there. So I'd been to the state conference, but I'd never been there as a teacher and experienced it. And so I roomed with Danny, and I roomed with our good friend Taylor Schaefer, who, at the time you guys were not teaching in our current town. But now we all teach in the same town, which is nice. But I was rooming with you guys, and I was really excited, and it was like our first night there. First of all, we're staying in the Mootel. That's not what it's actually called, but it just had lots of cow things all around, and it was kind of a crappy place, so that's why we called it the Motel.
But we tend to stay in crappy places for MMEA.
Yeah, it happened again.
Not throwing our current hotel under the bus.
So we decided to stay at the Motel, and it's me, you, and Taylor, and it's the first night there, and you're like, guys, let's just like get into the vibe of this conference.
Did I say get into the vibe of this conference?
No, but it was like this is the kind of chill vibe that you're trying to create.
You're okay. Go ahead.
And so like you turn off the lights, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm a first year teacher. I really respect these two.
Did I turn off the lights?
You turn off the lights. You're like, let's get in a circle. I was like, what is about to happen? And you just started playing like P. Diddy, and you were just like,
I love P. Diddy.
Just like dance it out,
Puff
guys.
Daddy. They call him Puff Daddy back.
Just dance it out and just really feel the music. And like, so I'm just in the dark, and we're in a circle, and you're playing Puff Daddy or P. Diddy or whatever. And
this sounds terrible.
I mean, nothing else happened besides us just dancing in a circle. But that's what happens when you room with Daniel Gutierrez, just to let you know.
So we vibed and you quote unquote vibed. I said, let's just get the vibe right now. Turn off the lights, and then I played Puff Daddy, and we're dancing.
And that was
in a
all
circle.
That happened. Yeah. It was interesting.
Welcome to our state music conference, young man.
I will never forget my first conference because of that. So you and I have both performed at the state conference 3 times now. And the first time I performed, our good pal Jerry Scott, one of our mentors, he texted me. He's like, hey, as you're programming, think of the kids in front of you, not the people behind you. Because I was in my going into my 3rd year of teaching whenever I was planning this program. And so I was like, I know squat. Like, I don't know anything. But I knew my kids, and I knew what they would enjoy. I knew what I would enjoy. So whenever he said that was an amazing thing. And that's something that I think everybody can use, because we sometimes have imposter syndrome, or we are worried about what other people are going to think about whenever we're programming music. All we need to really think about is what our kids need, maybe educationally, or what they can be successful at, and what they will enjoy, and then what we're going to enjoy as well.
When you're programming music, program for the students. Think about what's in their best interest, right? So I'm always thinking pedagogically, how do we get them from point A to point B? But at the same time, think about what's going to be emotionally fulfilling for them, because most likely, if they feel connected to music, they'll sing it better. They'll use more energy. They'll, if they can find meaning to the music, right? And that's why I love programming, because you can create a program taking some songs that seemingly have nothing to do with each other and give it real meaning out of that. And I think that's key. If you want your singers to sing great, give them music that they can connect to. Now, it does not, and I want to say this though, it does not mean to give them like fluff all the time too. Yeah. So it takes some work to find the balance, right? And that's not going to happen overnight, but when you find that balance, you're going to find a lot of success in your program.
If you pick the right theme, I feel like there's so many different pieces that you can put with a theme. Like, for example, at last year at the state conference, I did the theme Legacy, and I had a piece, There's a Hole in the Bucket, where that's like a children's song. And then I also had this piece that Ryan Main wrote, Legatum, which is like in your face, Latin. I had Will the Circle Be Unbroken, an old hymn. I had a musical theater piece from the Dear Evan Hansen movie. And then I had a Harry Styles song. And it all fit in Legacy in different ways, but they were all different types of pieces that we were able to connect to and connect with, and we were able to weave that into that Legacy theme. So if you pick the right theme, there's lots of different songs that you can pick for that theme.
And we know those treble voices can connect to Harry Styles music.
Absolutely.
Of course. I had a weird conversation with someone relatively recently, and they were talking about, Harry Styles is an amazing, oh my gosh, he's amazing. I'm not saying he's not amazing, but it was a conversation we're having, and I said, if Harry Styles did not look the way he did, would you still think that? Would you still think that he is the most amazing musical artist in the world?
Was this a teenage girl that you were talking to?
Of course.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
And she was like, no, you're wrong. And just like walked away. I'm like, all right, whatever. But I mean, it's something. It's something. But anyway, no, not to defame Harry Styles at all. Obviously, he's an extremely successful artist. And
I was also thinking, what are these choir directors going to think about me programming a Harry Styles piece? And then
they're going to be all about it.
Jerry Scott, and I was like, think about who's in front of me. 55 teenage girls. They're going to love this.
Yeah,
And
true,
they did.
true.
We have now reached our next segment. Choir
Heck
room.
yeah. Oh, sorry, is that the
It's
wrong
not
one?
the next
Oh
one.
my gosh,
Yeah,
that's embarrassing.
You just
Try it again.
freaking messed it up.
Sorry, go ahead.
We have now reached our next segment, choir room happenings. So during this segment, we're going to talk about like things that are happening in our choir rooms, and maybe you guys can take things from that and implement it into your choir rooms. At my school right now, there's a few things that we're working on. First of all, we got a new smart TV, like a smart board TV, and that's just been a game changer for sight singing, for just having music up there and being able to circle everything, and everybody in the room can see. So if your district has the monies, get a smart TV. There's so many different things that you can do with it. So many widgets that I haven't even gotten into because we've only had it for like a week. So that's amazing. We're also doing a solo night. So this is something that we do differently than some other schools. Some schools do it this way. But I think it's a lot easier because sometimes I know whenever I got this job at the middle school, I was very overwhelmed with the idea of solo and ensemble. And I was like, why would I do something that I'm going to hate and be super overwhelmed with? It was also in 2020, so I could use COVID as an excuse. But instead of going to like a solo ensemble contest, we just have a solo night with our kids at our school. It's one night for like 3 hours. Kids will come in and sing a solo. Since it's not a mission sanctioned event, we can have just printed out music instead of the actual books to give to judges. We can play tracks if we don't have enough accompanists to go around and play. So it just is very lighthearted, but kids still get that experience of singing in front of a judge. A couple of the judges that we use are your co-teachers at the high school, so it's also they're singing for their future teachers, which is really exciting. They get to hear their future students. So it's always been a success. And again, kids still get the normal ratings and everything, and the judges' sheets. So that's been really good. We also have like 28 of our kids going to the Southwest ACDA Regional Honor Choir. So we've been doing some check-ins, and it's been, some of the pieces are really, really fun. And I'm actually going to give a shout out to one of the pieces later. And then, it's just been so much fun co-teaching. I know you and I have co-taught for this is year 4, but I've only gotten to co-teach like 2 choirs in the past. And now I get to co-teach all choirs, first hour with you and then the rest of the day with Lauren. And so it's helped us, whenever I'm doing a SWAC to check-in, or whenever Lauren's doing a SWAC to check-in, we can continue going with everything else. Like, we're still working on our stuff for our spring concert in May. So it's just a real blessing to have that, which is great. What are you doing in the choir room?
So we're doing the SWACTA stuff. We're preparing. It sounds like a duck. SWACTA. So we're preparing for that conference, and right now they're in a good spot. They know most of the music well. We're still cleaning, working on getting emotion out of the music. That's a big thing. How do we elevate their level so that they're really connecting?
And when is your specific performance date?
March 1st. Do we question mark March 1st? Is that a Saturday?
I think March 2nd is
March 2nd. Okay, my bad. March 2nd, 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Maybe. 10 a.m., 10:30.
If you're going to attend SWACTA,
Saturday,
look for Danny's name.
Don't leave until Saturday.
Him and Jennifer Stammers are co-directing.
Then also we're getting ready for ICHSA, which is the International High School Acapella blah blah blah. I don't know what the whole you probably know the whole acronym.
The International Competition for High School Acapella.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. Very nice.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
I don't teach it.
Yeah, good point. So we're getting ready for that. We just started a contemporary acapella class last year. So I had a conversation with an administrator in my school district, and they were like, "So, Danny, what do you know about show choir?" And it was like they said it 3 times in a row slowly. They didn't. They just said it one time, but I didn't hear it like that. I heard it as show choir. Show choir.
Tell us how you feel about show choir.
Well, actually, okay. So, full transparency, I think show choir is awesome for people that want to do it. I just think it takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And I'm like, I'd rather kind of reallocate that to something I feel more comfortable with. So instead we have a contemporary a cappella choir class, which has been great, and it's really easy. It works with a lot of my strengths. I can parlay that into good singing and in the way I know how to do. And I think obviously there's some people that are rock stars, amazing at show choir stuff, but I choose to focus in that direction. But anyway, so they're doing the quarterfinal for ICHSA, which I'm excited about, and hopefully things go well for them. And we're also we just finished up our choir auditions, which is an extremely stressful, dark place where we have to evaluate students. That's not the stressful, dark part. The dark part is like you have to actually substantiate that, saying, okay, because of your performance, you're going to be in this choir versus that choir, which is the most draining feeling in the world.
But Mr. G, I want to be in that choir.
I understand.
ChatGPT.
How do I respond? Well, it's critical to know about these things, and so we finished that process out. There's some more callbacks later for some of the upper choirs, but we have a lot of that settled, and I'm excited. We have a super big class of students coming from the junior high next year, which I'm really excited about. It should be like 100 kids. So I'm sorry if you directors out there are jealous that we have 100 kids coming in from the junior high, or more, actually significantly more than 100 kids. It's 50, I think it's like 50 guys, which is tremendous, 50 basses and tenors. So I'm really excited about that, and just doing the audition stuff.
Well, Danny kind of alluded to this earlier, but our next segment is
Heck yeah!
There it is. Again, we're workshopping the segment titles. If you have other ideas other than heck yeah,
Heck yeah!
Heck yeah! So we're going to go over some different classroom hacks that we're really into as of right now.
Heck yeah!
So, Danny, would you like to start with your hacks? Yeah or nah?
Sure. I'm always thinking of creative ways to positively reinforce students. So thinking, how can we make it so that when they do the right thing, it becomes cool? So I've tried out many things over the years. I've tried stuffed animals. So just like plush stuffed animals, nothing hard. But stuff like, let's say a student has great posture, I'll just throw it to them. And
you started with monkeys, right?
Stuffed monkeys.
Yeah.
And I'll throw it to them, they'll throw it back to me. And it's just like the physical manifestation saying, you've done a good job. Or sometimes specifically with tone, and this is going to sound totally random, but when I hear really good tone, this is not random. I get excited. We all get excited from really good tone. But typically there's something around me. And what happened, I think one time there was a hole puncher, and I was like, yes, I was just so into their tone. I just started smacking the hole puncher over and over again. I didn't break it, but that became a thing. So whenever I'm talking about tone, something really good is happening, boom, smack the hole puncher. That's a fun one. Another one, this is random. So when you start doing fundraising, you get large boxes after a while. So one year we had this huge box. Yes. And so I said, all right, guys, I'll tell you what. If anyone can sing this passage from measure blah to measure blah, sing super in tune, really accurate, you get to spend a minute in the box, which was like a human life-size box. We put holes in it, adequate holes. It wasn't, there was a lot of, I'm just trying to, I'm not murdering children. Breathing room inside the box. And they go in there, but they were all about it. I was like, whoever does this great gets to go in the box for a minute. I don't care what happens. You can take a marker, draw in there. So that was like a thing. People would work so hard to be in the box for a minute. And actually, I busted it out recently, and it still works, even for high school students. Still works. They're all about just having that alone time, their privacy time in the box. Anyway, so it was fun. So that's some stuff. I'm always, like I said, hacking just simple, random stuff, trying to make it so that there's a way to affirm students that they feel good about what they're doing.
Yeah, and I will say stuffed animals, they very much, middle schoolers are very much into them. We have our stuffed poo pillows, so we throw poop at children. We were even making our recruitment video, and I asked, what's your favorite thing about choir? And one kid said, I love getting poop thrown at me. And I was like, I don't know if I could put that
I forgot to mention the Justin Bieber cards. Yes. So I am an avid collector. So of 2009 Justin Bieber, because that was like his rookie year, and I collect cards.
So why does Justin Bieber have a rookie year? Can you go into that?
Oh, it's whatever is the earliest memorabilia of someone.
Or just like rookie year of memorabilia. Being a musician.
Well, it's more like what is the first card? Like, okay, so for instance,
But like, I feel like a rookie year is for like an athlete.
No, I can give you an example. So in the card world, so let's say Giacomo Puccini, he has a rookie card. His rookie card, I think, is from like 1910. Now he started composing way before. I think his first opera was definitely before the beginning of the 20th century. But the first memorabilia they put in a pack of cigarettes. They want to get, I guess, kids to buy packs of cigarettes, and I guess opera was cool then, so they put Giacomo Puccini's rookie card in there, but they didn't know it was a rookie card at the time. So anyway, the first card that comes out of someone. Anyway, I collect these rookie cards for this specific card. It's a Drake Justin Bieber rookie card. But there's like a lot of stuff I don't care about, like Justin Bieber, like kissing a whale. Like, I don't want that. That's disgusting. So what I do is I just give them out to students as incentives. So if they do something great, I'm like, all right, great. You get Justin Bieber kissing a whale. And they're like, oh my God, that's great. So I've given that out as incentives too. Always finding creative stuff.
Beautiful. One of my favorite hacks actually has been during sight singing. I took this game that actually you started called Throw Your Friend Under the Bus. Can you please explain?
Oh, I love that game. It's basically a fun way to just it's exactly as it sounds. So I'll say, all right, who's going to sing? And I'll say, all right, one person's going to get the chance to throw their friend under the bus. So it's kind of an honor because it's like, okay, you were chosen to sing by a peer. So it's that social aspect as opposed to me saying sing. Your friend says sing. And we're just kind of making it into a silly thing like throw your friend under the bus. Like, who throws someone under the bus? You can throw your friend under the bus for singing.
I mean, Katie Heron in Mean Girls threw Regina George. No, she didn't throw her. That's debatable.
Good to know.
Anyway, so I took that game and I applied it to sight singing. So, at the beginning of sight singing, I go sharps or flats, and they have to answer whether it's sharps or flats or none if you're in the key of C. And so then they get to throw the friend under the bus to answer the next question, like, okay, what's the rule for the sharps? Okay, if it's second to last flat for the flats, what key are we in? They just keep throwing their friend under the bus. We actually got like a small little miniature stress ball type bus. So not only are they throwing their friend under the bus, but they're also throwing a bus at their friend. So it's just like adding multiple layers. And then I saw this guy on TikTok. He was ordering food at the drive-thru, but he had this like praise break app plugged in to on Bluetooth in his car. And every time he would order something, he'd be like, I'd like to get a cheeseburger, and then I'd like to get some extra fries, and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, how can I add this in here? So I always start, like, because you're assessing these kids individually, but you want to make it kind of like a game so that way they want to keep doing it. So I always say, okay, now it's time to throw your friend under the bus, yeah! And they all go wild. It's lots of fun. And I'm like, okay, Danny, you're up first. Can you tell me, are there sharps or are there flats? And then they answer,
what?
And then you say, sharps or flats? And then they'll answer,
none.
None is correct. And then you just keep going. So that is the Praise Break app. This is what it looks like, Praise Break app. Whenever you open it up, you can either go on to praise or preach. I like preach mode, and that's where you can hit these different buttons. So it's super simple and just makes assessing your students a little bit more fun. So it's a nice little hack. Heck yeah. Now it's time to shout out our next sponsor, the Treble Classroom.
Yes, the Treble Classroom is a website helping music educators find quality resources quickly to create lesson plans more effectively. Many music teachers find themselves at schools with small budgets, or they may be one of the only music teachers in their district. The Treble Classroom exists to help bridge the gap and equip teachers with resources to inspire their students.
I'm learning a lot about you reading these scripts. You are speaking very differently than you do just naturally.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
I know how to do
it's incredible. The first podcast.
Residence.
This website is managed by our good friend and colleague, Taylor Schaefer. Shout out to Taylor. Puff Daddy in the dark at the motel. That Taylor Schaefer. Taylor is an award-winning master educator and clinician. Make sure to visit the Treble Classroom. TrebleClassroom.com. Swagda. Make sure to visit the TrebleClassroom.com where you can get access to various resources for the classroom, including warm-ups, rounds, books, apps, curriculum, and repertoire.
Thank you again to the Treble Classroom for sponsoring this portion of today's episode.
Swagda. We have now reached our last segment of the podcast, Rep of the Week. Once we get to this portion of the episode, we will just be shouting out a piece of music that we've been really enjoying, or something new that we heard that week, or something that's really working for our kids in our classroom. So as I said earlier, we've been doing Southwest ACDA Honor Choir check-ins with our kids, and the 7th through 9th grade tenor bass choir, they're doing The Witching Hour by Braden Ayers. And, I'm not like listening to the Swagda tracks often. Swagda. I'm not listening to them often because I don't have to learn the music. And I like to put a lot of that responsibility on the kids. But as I was rehearsing this with one of my students, I was like, dang, this is actually like a freaking bop. It's the text was adapted from Macbeth by Shakespeare, and it's just very much witchcraft-esque and very spooky, lots of chanting, and something that is, I feel like, very different for tenor bass choirs, and that you should totally check out. It's very different. And
Did you say very witchcraft-esque?
Yeah, witchcraft-esque. That's the kind of stuff we like to implement in our classrooms. Not really, but maybe sometimes. Anyway, what is your shout out of the week?
No, that's great. And Braden Ayers is an amazing composer too. He writes a lot of middle level music because he taught in the field for some time. So I would like to give a shout out to The Warrior by Reese Norris. Ooh. Also another legendary middle level instructor. Worked at Hernando Middle School for some time. I don't think you have to bleep that out. It's public information. You can find it from...
I mean, where we work is also public.
It's public, yeah.
You could just like Google us and figure it out.
Squeaky clean. Anyway, so The Warrior, Reese Norris, I love it. It's a lot of cool things in the song, percussion, accompaniment, like thunder sheets, and you could even play like a track too. Check out Music Spoke. It's under that. It's under Music Spoke. So The Warrior, Reese Norris, great piece.
So this is our first episode of the podcast. We don't really know what we're doing, but we're having a good time. I mean, how are you feeling about this?
It was fun.
Yeah,
great.
It was a good time.
It works.
So we want your feedback. Like if you have heard something in this episode and you're like, hey, I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, message us on our social media, or reach out on our Instagram, on our Facebook, on anything, direct message us, or comment on the video on YouTube, or comment anywhere. And we will try to dive in a little bit more, maybe the next episode, on some of that stuff. Or if you have a topic that you'd like us to talk about, reach out to us and we will try to cover that in a later episode. Well, that wraps up this week's episode of The Choir Guys. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube to The Choir Guys channel so you can know when the new episodes are coming out. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Once again, The Choir Guys is brought to you by Endeavor Music Publishing. Make sure to browse their website before programming.
Can you say that one more time? Programming.
Their website before programming music for your next concert.
You can follow the show on all social media at The Choir Guys Pod to catch bonus content throughout the week. Feel free to message us through these platforms, once again, if you want to hear us talk about something specific on the show.
Also, tune in next time for a discussion regarding auditions and
more. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.